All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Our whole mission here is to take these, complex, sometimes really dense sources and just make them clear. And today we have, I think it's one of the most strategically focused documents we've ever really tackled.
Oh, for sure. It's a lot. This isn't just a theological talk.
No, not at all. It's from a December 1981 sermon by Sun Myung Moon, and the title is True Parents and the Path of Universal Indemnity.
And that title tells you so much already. Our job here is to really pull out the core beliefs, the mandates he was giving, and this really unique worldview he lays out.
We're going to focus on three big things that jumped out. His view of religious history, his really sharp critique of Western freedom, and then this central idea of suffering, which he calls indemnity.
Yeah, that's the absolute core of it.
But before we even get into that, we have to define a term you're going to hear over and over.
Yeah.
True parent. This is the specific name used in the Unification Church for Sun Myung Moon and his wife. And according to the text, it's a title they earned through immense personal struggle.
And that's key. It's not just a title. It frames everything that follows in terms of family, authority, and a new kind of spiritual lineage.
Okay, so let's start with that foundation, his view of history. He presents the Unification Church, the UC, as not just another religion.
No, it's the final act, the culmination of everything God has been trying to do on earth.
And he uses this really striking analogy to explain it. He compares all of world religion to the American education system.
It's brilliant. Rhetorically, it immediately gives you a structure you can understand, a hierarchy. He lays it out in four very distinct levels.
So walk us through that. How does he map faith onto, grade levels?
Okay, so he starts at the bottom. The family level. This, he says, is Judaism, started by Jacob. Think of it like elementary school. It's where you learn the absolute basics, the spiritual alphabet.
And then you move up.
Then you move up to the tribal level, which connects to Moses. Then the national level, that's Jesus Christ. But, and this is a critical point, he reframes the story of Jesus' rejection.
How does he do that?
He specifically calls Jesus an Asian and a Jew who was rejected by the dominant power of the time, the Roman Empire.
Ah, so he's drawing a direct parallel.
Exactly. He's linking Jesus' struggle against the West of his day to Moon's own struggles against the Western world in 1981. It subtly tells his followers, the resistance we're facing, that's proof we're on the right path.
It validates their experience of persecution.
It completely validates it. And then at the very top of the pyramid, you have the Unification Church, the worldwide level, the university.
So all previous religions were just prerequisites.
Necessary ones, absolutely. You can't get to university without learning the alphabet from elementary school.
Okay.
So Judaism and Christianity were essential preparation. But they were incomplete. The real work, the universal work, happens at the UC level.
It's a cosmology that basically gives them the final degree, the highest qualification.
Yes, and that systematic, ordered view of the world leads directly into his next major point, which is a really hard critique of Western freedom.
This is where he gets very, very pointed. He claims the West is, and this is a quote, intoxicated by the concept of freedom.
And he sees that intoxication as a poison. It's a license to ignore rules, to disregard principles, and that, he argues, is leading to a complete societal collapse.
And he doesn't just speak in abstractions. He uses some incredibly shocking specific examples.
Oh, he's very concrete. He talks about reports of teachers being raped by their students, widespread vandalism. He's painting a picture of a society where the moral fabric is just gone.
And he even puts himself into the story. He tells this anecdote about being in Washington, D.C. and seeing a girl walking topless in a bikini.
And he says he scolded her himself.
Right.
That's such a vital detail. He's not just observing the decay, he's intervening. He frames her behavior as totally offensive to God's laws and human decency.
Yeah.
The implication is that society is failing, so a new authority has to step in.
So if that's the abuse of freedom, what's the alternative? What is true freedom, according to this sermon?
True freedom is basically the opposite of license. It's something you achieve only through strict adherence to law and principle.
He goes back to the school analogy for that, right?
He does. He says a student who follows all the school rules is the one who truly enjoys the freedom of the school. Freedom isn't breaking the rules, it's the space you earn by mastering them.
That is a complete reversal of the common Western idea of liberty. And he takes it even further.
He does. He says that even God is bound by the principles he created. So if the creator has to follow the rules, then humanity certainly does.
And what happens if you don't? What's the consequence for choosing license over principle?
That's where you get the cages of hell. It's a fascinating concept. He says those who abuse freedom on Earth aren't heading for some chaotic realm.
No, they're heading for a place of extreme order.
Extreme order, discipline, and regulations. So if you reject structure voluntarily now, you will be contained by it violently in the afterlife. It's a powerful motivator for self-discipline.
Which sets an incredibly high bar, not just for the followers, but for the leaders. This brings us to the true parent role itself. The sermon just hammers this point that this position was earned through suffering.
Immense suffering. It's a ladder you have to climb, and you have to start at the absolute bottom. The text says you must first become a true servant of servants, then a true beggar, even a true martyr.
What's the fuel for that climb? How does one do that?
The power comes from what he calls sacrificial love. He calls it the road of the cross. And to make it real, he talks about his own persecution in North Korea.
He describes being tortured by communists.
Yes, tortured so badly they thought he was dead, and he claims that even then he was praying for his torturers. That's the source of his moral authority to be a parent, that ability to love your enemy.
And that parental authority then becomes a kind of spiritual protection for the followers.
A shield, yes. He was facing a court trial in the U.S. at the time, and he framed it that way. He said he came back to face the trial for the American members, to act as their shield, to take on their burdens.
Taking on their burdens, that leads to another really powerful metaphor he uses, grafting.
A very powerful, very biological metaphor. He says that all of humanity is born from the tree of sin. So to be saved, you have to perform a kind of spiritual surgery on yourself.
You have to cut yourself off from your old lineage.
Exactly. You cut yourself off from that sinful tree and get grafted onto the tree of sinlessness, which is the true parent, the true olive tree. And that process is only possible if you accept that parent-child relationship.
Which feels like a prerequisite for restoration. And that brings us to the absolute core mechanism for all of this.
Yeah.
The doctrine of indemnity.
Yes. The text is unambiguous here. Quote, "Without the payment of indemnity, no restoration is possible."
So what is it? What is indemnity?
In simple terms, it's a payment, a condition you have to fulfill to cancel out a historical debt or a sin. But the key isn't just suffering. It's the attitude you have toward it.
And what attitude is required?
It has to be willing, voluntary, and this is crucial.
Yeah.
Without complaint.
Very direct about that.
Very. He says if you dislike indemnity, you dislike restoration itself. You're actually supposed to seek out the difficult path because that difficulty is the proof that you're making spiritual progress.
And to make this really concrete, he gives these just amazing specific examples of what indemnity looks like in daily life. It's not always some grand persecution.
No, it's mundane, it's internalized. He says imprisonment is just one more form of indemnity, but then there's the games analogy.
That one is incredible.
He tells followers to play games they're bad at, like ping pong or pool, and to keep losing. The goal is to taste losing over and over, to build up that spirit of indemnity. You voluntarily accept failure.
To intentionally fail at ping pong is a spiritual act. And he applies this to marriage, too, in the blessing ceremonies.
Yes, the marital indemnity. He uses this deliberately provocative example of a handsome man being matched with his words, potato-shaped Korean girl with a nose so flat he can't even see it.
Wow.
And he says, yes, this is a difficult condition, but that difficulty is the point. That is the indemnity payment.
So the command is, seek out the friction. Go to the toughest places, Harlem, Africa. Take on the hardest jobs, because that's the only way to accelerate your growth.
And the reward isn't earthly. It's not about getting praise or a big salary. The reward for embracing indemnity is an eternal blessing in heaven. You become a future leader.
Okay, so with indemnity as the path, let's look at the specific mandate given to the followers or God's champions. Before they can get married, before the blessing, they have to complete 3 stages. 3 foundations.
Right. These are the absolute prerequisites. First is the foundation of faith. This is about restoring the material world. It usually means fundraising, making material offerings over a set period of time, like 3.5 years.
So that's the material level. What's the second?
The second is the foundation of substance. This is human level restoration. It's about healing the Cain and Abel relationship, resolving conflict, basically, repairing the broken human family on a personal level.
So material offering, then relationship repair. And the third?
The third is the foundation to receive the Messiah. This is achieved simply by accepting and receiving the true parents. Once you've met those 3 conditions, you're ready. You're ready for the blessing.
And a big practical task to achieve this was the home church mandate.
A huge one. Each member was told to serve 360 homes in their local area. That block of homes was seen as a microcosm of the entire world.
So if you could bring unity to your 360 homes.
You were proving you could bring unity to the globe. You were resolving all of history, Old Testament, New Testament, completed Testament, right there on your street.
And finally, he brings it all back to moral purity. He connects it directly to the original fall in the Garden of Eden.
He does. He looks at American society in the early 80s. He mentions streaking, free sex, and he calls them incredible perversions. He says this is humanity reenacting the original sin.
So the mandate for his followers is absolute purity.
Absolute. Engaged couples must not touch intimately before marriage. It wasn't just a personal moral choice. It was a historical necessity to start a new, sinless lineage.
So to recap, we have this systematic view of history that puts the UC at the top. We have this rejection of Western license in favor of true freedom through order, and this absolute necessity of voluntary suffering or indemnity.
And he gives his followers this incredible sense of ownership over this knowledge. He tells them they've been given secrets of history that no philosopher ever knew. It's a priceless treasure.
A treasure they got for a bargain price, he says. Maybe just a 7-day workshop.
Exactly. And the only reason it was so cheap is because he, the speaker, had already paid the massive indemnity through his own suffering.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative idea. He says in the sermon, "The world is running out of ways to abuse me. My indemnity is running out."
It's a fascinating statement.
It is. If external conflict, if persecution is the fuel for liberation, what happens when it starts to fade? The sermon suggests the burden then shifts entirely to the followers. They have to now voluntarily seek out the friction.
The path of most resistance.
Exactly. So the challenge that leaves you with is, if you're not being fought by the world, how do you define and then go out and find your own priceless indemnity?